Ambassador Taeho had lived on the Galactic Station for 3 years. It was a massive structure floating in the empty space between star systems. Thousands of aliens from dozens of species lived there together. They worked together, argued together, and tried very hard not to start wars with each other. Taeho was the human representative. His job was simple in theory but difficult in practice. He had to make sure humans looked good. He had to solve problems. He had to smile at beings who sometimes had too many teeth or not enough eyes. He had to be patient. Most days, he managed just fine. The Galactic Station was shaped like a giant wheel. Different sections housed different species based on their needs. Some needed water. Some needed extreme heat. Some needed darkness. Humans got a section with normal air, normal gravity, and plenty of coffee machines. Taeho considered the coffee machines essential for galactic peace. His office sat on the 47th floor of the human quarter. It had a large window that showed the stars outside. He had decorated it with a few plants from Earth and a photograph of his family. Sometimes he missed home. But the work here was important, and someone had to do it. Lieutenant Yuna worked with him. She was younger, sharper, and better at remembering names. Where Taeho was patient and calm, Yuna was quick and clever. They made a good team. She handled the details while he handled the big speeches. Life on the station followed a routine. Wake up, drink coffee, read reports, attend meetings, drink more coffee, solve small problems before they became big problems, go to sleep, repeat. It was during one of these ordinary days that everything changed. The Valari were one of the friendliest species on the station. They looked like foxes that had learned to walk on 2 legs. Their fur came in different colors: silver, gold, red, and sometimes blue. They had large ears that could hear sounds from very far away. Their eyes were big and round, making them look permanently curious. The Valari were also famous for their children. Valari cubs were possibly the cutest things in the known galaxy. They were small, fluffy, and full of energy. They asked questions constantly. They laughed easily. Every species on the station had a soft spot for Valari cubs. Counselor Mora was an important Valari diplomat. She had silver fur and wise eyes. She had served on the Galactic Council for 20 years. Everyone respected her. She was fair, intelligent, and very good at her job. Mora had a daughter named Fen. Fen was 7 years old. She had her mother's silver fur but her father's mischievous personality. She was curious about everything. She followed diplomats around the station, asking questions they did not know how to answer. She collected strange objects from different cultures. She made friends with everyone she met. Fen had decided that humans were the most interesting species on the station. She did not know why exactly. Maybe it was because humans were so new to galactic society. Maybe it was because they had such strange customs. Maybe it was because Ambassador Taeho always gave her candy from Earth when she visited his office. Whatever the reason, Fen followed Taeho everywhere. At first, Taeho found it strange. A small, fluffy alien trailing behind him through corridors was not something they had trained him for at the diplomatic academy. But Fen was polite and quiet, mostly. She just watched and listened. Sometimes, she asked questions about Earth. He answered them as best he could. Over time, Taeho grew fond of the little cub. She reminded him of his niece back home. He started keeping extra candy in his desk drawer just for her visits. Yuna thought it was adorable. She took photographs of Fen sitting in Taeho's big chair, pretending to be an ambassador. Counselor Mora appreciated that her daughter had found a positive role model. Everyone was happy. No one suspected that anything could go wrong. The day of the incident started like any other. Taeho woke up, drank his coffee, and went to his office. He had a pile of documents to review. Trade agreements, resource allocations, complaints about noise in the recreation areas, normal things. Fen arrived around mid-morning. She knocked on his door 3 times, the way she always did. Taeho smiled and let her in. She curled up in the corner with her tablet, playing some Valari game while he worked. Everything was peaceful. Then Taeho saw the report. It was about a trade dispute. The details were complicated, but the short version was this. A human trading company had been cheated. They had paid for goods that were never delivered. The other party claimed innocence. The evidence was messy. The solution was unclear. Worse, the report was written badly. It had errors. It had missing information. It had been sent to him at the last minute when he needed to present it to the council the next day. Tejo felt his frustration building. He stood up to get more coffee. He walked around his desk. He did not see the metal edge of the console sticking out. His toe hit it at full speed. The pain shot through his foot like lightning. It was the specific kind of pain that turned calm people into temporary monsters. It was the kind of pain that made intelligent beings say very unintelligent things. Tejo said many unintelligent things. He cursed in Korean first, then in English. Then, in a creative mix of both languages. He used words that would have made his grandmother faint. He described the console, its makers, and its entire family line in terms that were not appropriate for any official setting. It lasted about 30 seconds. Then the pain faded. Tejo took a deep breath. He felt embarrassed. He was a professional diplomat. He should not lose control over a stubbed toe. He looked around to make sure no one had heard him. He had forgotten about Fen. The little cub sat in her corner, absolutely still. Her large ears were pointed straight up. Her eyes were wide with wonder. She had heard everything. Every word. Every syllable. Her perfect Valari memory had recorded it all. Tejo felt his heart stop for a moment. Fen, he said carefully. You should forget what you just heard. Fen tilted her head. Why? Those were amazing sounds. They were not amazing. They were bad words. Very bad words. What do they mean? Tejo struggled to answer. How did one explain profanity to an alien child? The concepts did not translate easily. The cultural context was missing. They are words humans use when they are upset, he said finally. But we should not use them. They are not polite. Fen nodded slowly, but her eyes sparkled with curiosity. Can you teach me more? No. Absolutely not. Forget them, please. Fen made a sound that might have been agreement. Tejo relaxed slightly. Cubs forgot things all the time. She would probably move on to some new interest by tomorrow. He was very, very wrong. That night, in her small room in the Valari Quarter, Fen practiced the strange new words. She whispered them under her blankets so her mother would not hear. The sounds felt powerful in her mouth. They felt important. Her translator chip could not process them. The words were too informal, too specific to human culture. This made them even more special. They were secret words. Magic words. Words that even the translators did not know. Fen decided these must be the most powerful words in human language. Why else would they be so protected? Why else would the ambassador look so worried? She practiced until she could say them perfectly. Her accent was flawless. Her pronunciation was exact. If anyone closed their eyes and listened, they would think a native speaker was talking. Fen did not understand what the words meant. She did not know the concepts behind them. To her, they were just sounds. Beautiful. Forbidden sounds. She fell asleep, planning how to use her new power. Ambassador Tejo also went to sleep that night. He did not sleep well. Something felt wrong, but he could not identify what. He told himself he was worrying too much. Children forgot things. Everything would be fine. The next morning, he woke up to 17 urgent messages. The Galactic Council meeting had been moved up by 3 hours. Some emergency had occurred. His presence was required immediately. He had no time to prepare. Tejo rushed to get ready. He gulped down his coffee. He grabbed his documents. He ran to the council chamber. He did not notice Fen following behind him, her silver fur bouncing with excitement. She had been waiting for the perfect moment to test her new words. She was about to find it. The Galactic Council chamber was the most important room on the entire station. It sat at the very center of the Great Wheel, in a section with no gravity. Delegates floated in special chairs, arranged in a circle. Holographic displays showed translations and data. Everything about the room said that serious business happened here. 12 species had seats on the council. Humans were the newest members, having joined only 15 years ago. Tejo's seat was slightly smaller than the others, a reminder of humanity's junior status. He did not mind. Small chair or not, he had a voice. That was what mattered. The chamber was already filling when he arrived. Delegates drifted to their positions, activating their chairs' magnetic locks. Aides hurried about with tablets and documents. The air hummed with quiet conversation in a dozen languages. Tejo found his chair and strapped in. His heart was still racing from the rush to get here. He had not had time to review the emergency. He did not know why the meeting had been called early. Lieutenant Yuna appeared beside him, looking equally confused. "Do you know what is happening?" he asked. She shook her head. "Something about resource rights in the outer sectors. The Krix are involved." Tejo suppressed a groan. The Krix were difficult to deal with. They were an insectoid species, tall and angular, with hard shells and sharp minds. They valued logic above all else. They considered most other species to be intellectually inferior. They said so frequently, with no apparent awareness that this was insulting. Counselor Vel was the Krix representative. He had been on the council for longer than Tejo had been alive. His exoskeleton was dark green, almost black. His compound eyes reflected light in unsettling ways. When he spoke, his mandibles clicked together in patterns that the translators sometimes struggled to interpret. Vel did not like humans. He considered them young, emotional, and chaotic. He had said this directly to Tejo's face during their first meeting. Tejo had smiled politely and pretended not to mind. The meeting began with the usual formalities. The council chair, an ancient being named Oro, from the crystalline prism species, called the session to order. His voice echoed through the chamber like wind through chimes. "We gather to discuss the resource allocation in Sector 17, Oro announced. The Krix Confederation has raised objections to the current distribution, and so it began. Vel spoke first. His clicks and whistles translated into precise, cutting words. He explained, in great detail, why the current arrangement was inefficient. He used statistics. He used projections. He used thinly veiled insults about the intelligence of species who disagreed with him. The Volari were the primary target. Their colony in Sector 17 had been granted mineral rights that the Krix now wanted. Counselor Mora defended her people calmly and professionally. She presented counter-arguments. She cited treaties. She remained polite despite the provocation. Vel was not satisfied. The Volari lack the industrial capacity to properly utilize these resources. He clicked. Giving them these rights is like giving advanced tools to primitive creatures. They will waste what they cannot understand. The chamber went tense. Even by Krix standards, this was harsh. Mora's fur bristled slightly, but her voice stayed even. The Volari have managed our territory successfully for 300 years. We do not need lectures from species who confuse arrogance with intelligence. Vel's mandibles clicked rapidly. An insult about Volari mental capacity followed. Then another. The debate grew heated. Tejo watched in tired silence. This was typical council politics. Words as weapons. Egos as obstacles. Nothing would be decided today. They would argue for hours, then schedule another meeting to argue more. He did not notice Counselor Mora's daughter sitting in the observation gallery above. Fen had followed Tejo all the way to the chamber. She had slipped into the public viewing area, where citizens could watch the proceedings. A few other observers sat scattered around her, most of them bored. Council meetings were not exciting, but Fen was not bored. She was angry. She understood what was happening. The mean bug alien was saying bad things about her mother, about her people. He was calling them stupid. He was being cruel. Fen's small paws gripped the railing. Her ears lay flat against her head. She wanted to do something. She wanted to help her mother. She wanted to make the bug alien stop. Then she remembered her special words, the human power words. The magic sounds that were so strong even the translators could not handle them. Ambassador Taeho had said they were words humans used when they were upset. Fen was very upset. She took a deep breath. She leaned forward. Her small voice, clear and high, cut through the chamber like a blade. "Why don't you shut the hell up? You absolute piece of," she continued. She used every word she had memorized. She pronounced them perfectly, with the exact tone and rhythm she had heard from Taeho. Her innocent voice made the crude language sound even more shocking. The translator systems went into overdrive. They had never encountered these specific terms before. They did their best to render the meaning in all 12 languages simultaneously. The results were spectacular. For the Krix, the words translated into grave insults about ancestry and intelligence. For the Valari, they became crude references to biological functions. For the Prism, they somehow implied their crystal structures were flawed. Each species heard something deeply offensive in their own cultural context. Silence crashed down on the chamber. Every delegate froze. Conversations stopped mid-sentence. Even the ambient hum of the station's systems seemed to pause. Then, slowly, every head turned toward the observation gallery. Toward the small silver cub who stood there with her chest puffed out proudly. Counselor Mora's face shifted through several emotions. Confusion, recognition, horror. She looked at her daughter. She looked at the council. She looked like she wanted the floor to open and swallow her whole. "Fen," she whispered. "What did you just say?" Fen beamed with pride. "I used the power words. The human taught me." The entire chamber turned toward Taeho. He felt the weight of dozens of alien eyes pressing down on him. His mouth opened, but no sound came out. His brain had stopped working. Somewhere distantly, he heard Yuna make a small choking noise that might have been laughter or terror. Counselor Vel recovered first, his compound eyes fixed on Taeho with intensity. "The human taught profanity to a child? I did not teach her." Taeho finally managed. "She overheard me. Once. By accident." "Once?" Mora's voice was ice. She seemed quite fluent. "I have a good memory," Fen added helpfully. The chamber erupted. Delegates shouted questions. Aides rushed about looking panicked. The council chair tried to restore order, his chiming voice lost in the chaos. Taeho wanted to disappear. He wanted to fly back to Earth and never return. He wanted to go back in time and not stub his toe. Instead, he did what diplomats do. He stood up. He raised his hands for silence. He prepared to explain. "Honored delegates," he began. "I must apologize." "Wait," Vel interrupted. His mandibles clicked in an unusual pattern. It took Taeho a moment to recognize the sound. The Krix was laughing. "The cub," Vel clicked. "She told me to." What was the translation? "Shut the hell up?" "I am so sorry," Taeho said. "I am not." Vel made that clicking laugh again. "In 300 years of council service, no one has ever spoken to me that way. It is refreshing." The chamber fell silent again, this time in shock. Counselor Mora stared at Vel. "You find this amusing?" "I find it honest." Vel's compound eyes glittered. "We speak in circles here. We wrap insults in polite words. We waste time with formality." This small creature said what many think but none dare voice. He turned back to Fen, who still stood in the gallery looking confused but pleased. "You little one. You have spirit. Misguided spirit. But spirit nonetheless." Fen's ears perked up. "Does that mean my words worked?" No one knew how to answer that. The meeting dissolved into confused discussion. The original topic was forgotten. Everyone wanted to know what had happened. How had a Valari cub learned human profanity? What did the words actually mean? Was this some kind of diplomatic incident? Taeho spent the next hour answering questions he did not want to answer. Mora stood beside him, her expression unreadable. Fen had been escorted out by aides, still proud of herself. When the chaos finally settled, Taeho found himself in front of the council chair. "Ambassador," Oro chimed. This is unprecedented. I understand. I take full responsibility. Responsibility for what, exactly? An accident? Oro paused. The child overheard you. You did not intend this, but the consequences remain to be seen. Oro's crystalline form caught the light. For now, perhaps you should ensure no other children are learning. Power words. Ah, Tejo nodded miserably. The meeting was adjourned. As delegates filed out, many of them gave Tejo strange looks. Some seemed angry. Some seemed amused. Some seemed curious. Yuna finally reached his side. Her face was carefully neutral, but her eyes sparkled. So, she said, that happened. Please do not say anything. I was not going to, she paused. But I am definitely telling everyone on Earth, Tejo groaned. His career was over. He was certain of it. He had no idea that this was only the beginning. The next 6 hours were the longest of Tejo's life. He sat in a small conference room in the human quarter, facing a holographic image of his supervisor from Earth. Director Hanbi looked tired and unhappy. The connection had a slight delay, which made every awkward pause even more uncomfortable. Let me understand this correctly, Hanbi said. Her voice was flat. You taught an alien child to curse. I did not teach her. She overheard me. You cursed in front of an alien child. I did not know she was there. You cursed so extensively that she memorized enough material to insult a senior council member. Tejo had no response to that. It was accurate. Hanbi rubbed her temples. She was a small woman with gray hair and sharp eyes. She had been a diplomat for 40 years. She had seen many crises. But this one was new. Do you understand what you have done? She asked. I stubbed my toe, Tejo said weakly. You created an interstellar incident. With your toe. Lieutenant Yuna sat beside Tejo, taking notes. She had stopped trying to hide her smile. This would become legendary. Every diplomatic training course for the next century would probably mention this case. Hanbi sighed heavily. The good news is that the Cricks are not filing a formal complaint. Counselor Vell apparently found the whole thing entertaining. Crick sighed. A problem. He did seem amused, Tejo admitted. The Valari are embarrassed but not angry. Counselor Mora has requested a list. A list? Of words to prevent her daughter from learning more. She wants to know what to watch for. Tejo closed his eyes. I can provide that. Good. Do it today. Hanbi's expression softened slightly. Look, this is bad. But it could be worse. No one was hurt. No treaties were broken. It is embarrassment, not a disaster. So I am not being recalled? Not yet, but you will handle the cleanup. Whatever it takes to smooth this over. The connection ended. Tejo slumped in his chair. Yuna patted his shoulder. It could have been worse. How? The cub could have learned worse words. Tejo thought about the full extent of his vocabulary when angry. She had a point. While Tejo dealt with official matters, Fen was dealing with her own situation. Her mother had brought her home after the incident. The walk back to the Valari quarter had been very quiet. Fen knew that quiet was bad. Mora sat her daughter down in their living space. The room was warm and soft, filled with cushions and gentle light. It usually felt safe. Today, it felt tense. Fen, Mora said carefully. Do you understand what happened today? Fen's ears drooped. I made the bug alien stop being mean. You disrupted a council meeting. You used words that were very inappropriate. But they were power words. The human said they were special. Mora paused. Did Ambassador Tejo tell you to use those words? No. Fen looked at her pause. He said to forget them. But I wanted to help you. The bug alien was saying bad things about our people. Mora felt her anger soften. Her daughter had acted out of loyalty, not malice. The intention was sweet, even if the execution was catastrophic. Fen, those words are not power words. They are rude words. Humans use them when they lose control of their emotions. They are not meant to be shared. But they worked. Fen said. Everyone stopped arguing. Mora could not deny this. The meeting had indeed ended early. No one had continued insulting anyone after Fen's outburst. Sometimes things work in ways that are not good, Mora explained. You surprised everyone. That is not the same as solving a problem. Fen considered this. So the words are bad? They are complicated. In human culture, they have specific meanings and uses. Using them without understanding can cause misunderstandings. Oh. Fen's tail curled around her feet. Am I in trouble? Mora looked at her daughter. Small. Fluffy. Trying so hard to understand a complex situation. How could she be angry at this face? You are not in trouble, Mora said finally. But you must not use those words again. And you must apologize to the council. Fen nodded solemnly. I will apologize. But can I still visit the human? Mora hesitated. Part of her wanted to say no. Part of her recognized that Taeho had done nothing wrong on purpose. We will see, she said. What neither of them knew was that Fen had already started a revolution. News traveled fast on the Galactic station. Within hours, everyone had heard about the cub who cursed at a counselor. The story grew with each retelling. By evening, some versions claimed Fen had delivered a 5-minute speech of insults. Others said she had made Counselor Vel cry, which was impossible since Crix could not cry. The young aliens of the station were fascinated. Velari cubs gathered in their play areas, whispering about Fen's bravery. Young Aquari swimmers asked their parents about human language. Even the normally serious juvenile Crix were curious about words that could make their elders laugh. Fen became famous overnight. Children started approaching her in public spaces. They wanted to know about the human words. They wanted to learn them too. They had heard these were powerful sounds. Secret sounds. Forbidden sounds. Fen enjoyed the attention. She was not supposed to use the words again. But her mother had not said she could not teach them. It was a small difference. But Fen was clever enough to see it. She started holding secret meetings in quiet corners of the station. Young aliens of various species gathered around her. She taught them carefully, making sure they understood the pronunciation. You have to say it like this, she demonstrated. With feeling. The human said, these are words for when you are very upset. Her students practiced. An Aquari youth gurgled the words through their gills. A young Crix clicked and whistled their version. A prism child's crystal form vibrated with the effort of producing the sounds. It was beautiful, in a terrible way. Meanwhile, Taeho worked on damage control. He composed the list of inappropriate words for Counselor Mora. It was surprisingly long. Human languages had developed creative insults over thousands of years. Yuna helped him organize everything. She also created a document called Human Profanity, a Cultural Context Guide. It explained why humans cursed, when it was acceptable, and what the various terms actually meant. This is 40 pages, Taeho said, reviewing her work. Human swearing is complex, Yuna replied. Did you have to include the historical etymology? Knowledge is important. Also, I thought it was interesting. Taeho sent the materials to Counselor Mora. He hoped this would be the end of it. A strange thing happened in the following days. Counselor Vel requested a private meeting with Taeho. They met in a neutral conference room. Vel's tall insectoid form towered over Taeho, but the Crix's manner was surprisingly casual. I wanted to thank you, Vel clicked. Taeho blinked. Thank me? For what? The cub's words. They were illuminating. I do not understand. Vel settled into a position that might have been relaxed. I have served on the council for many years. I have grown accustomed to empty politeness. Everyone says what they think they should say, not what they truly feel. That is diplomacy, Taeho said carefully. That is dishonesty wrapped in pleasant words. Vel's compound eyes fixed on him. Your cub. She is not my cub. The cub who learned from you. She spoke with genuine emotion, raw and unfiltered. It was shocking. Yes, but also honest. Taeho did not know how to respond. Was Vel saying he appreciated being insulted? I am not saying I enjoy being told to. What was it? Shut the hell up? Vel made that clicking laugh again. But I appreciate the directness. There is value in honesty. Even crude honesty. Most species prefer polite dishonesty to crude honesty, Tejo said. Most species are wrong. Vel stood to leave. Your kind is young in galactic terms. Emotional. Chaotic. But perhaps that is not entirely a weakness. He left Tejo sitting alone, thoroughly confused. Days passed. The immediate crisis faded. But something had changed on the station. A small crack had appeared in the wall of formal diplomacy. And through that crack, something new was beginning to grow. Fen continued her secret language lessons. More and more young aliens learned the forbidden words. They did not use them publicly, not yet. But they knew them. They practiced them. They waited. Tejo returned to his normal routine. He attended meetings. He reviewed documents. He drank his coffee. He tried to forget about the whole incident. But every time he saw Counselor Vel in the hallways, the old Crix would click a greeting that sounded almost friendly. And every time he passed a group of young aliens, they would look at him with strange respect. Something was happening. Something he had started without meaning to. The galaxy was changing, one curse word at a time. Tejo did not know whether to be proud or terrified. He settled on both. 3 months had passed since the incident. Tejo thought the chaos was behind him. He was wrong. The change started slowly, so slowly that no one noticed at first. A word here, a phrase there, small moments of unexpected honesty in formal settings. It began with the Aquari representative. Counselor Dean was a water-dwelling being who attended meetings through a special tank on wheels. She was known for her calm demeanor and careful speech. She had never raised her voice in 50 years of service. During a budget discussion, the numbers did not add up. Someone had made errors in the calculations. The meeting had already run 2 hours longer than scheduled. Everyone was tired. Dean reviewed the figures on her display. She made a sound like bubbles rising through water. Then, very clearly, she said something that translated across all channels as absolute nonsense. The chamber went quiet. Dean continued without pause. These numbers are wrong. We have been arguing about wrong numbers for 2 hours. This is stupid. Fix it and call us back. She rolled her tank toward the exit. No one stopped her. No one disagreed. The meeting ended early. And the budget was corrected within a day. This was the first crack. The second came from an unexpected source. The young Crix who served as Counselor Vel's aide had been one of Fen's students. He had learned the human words in secret. He understood their power. During a trade negotiation that had stalled for weeks, the aide finally lost patience. The other party was clearly acting in bad faith. Everyone knew it. No one would say it. The aide said it. His translation came through as, "Stop lying and make a real offer." The room erupted. But the other party, caught off guard by the directness, actually responded honestly for the first time. A deal was reached within the hour. Vel did not punish his aide. Instead, he made a clicking sound that everyone recognized as approval. Word spread quickly through the station. The formal rules of diplomacy were cracking. The old patterns of careful, empty words were being challenged. And at the center of it all, whether she knew it or not, was a small silver cub named Fen. Lieutenant Yuna tracked the changes with scientific precision. She created charts and graphs showing the frequency of direct language in council meetings. The numbers were climbing steadily. "Look at this," she showed Tejo one morning. 3 months ago, meetings averaged 0 instances of confrontational honesty. Last week, there were 15. Is that good or bad? It is interesting. Yuna pulled up another chart. More importantly, look at meeting efficiency. Average session length has dropped by 40%. More decisions are being made. Fewer issues are being delayed. Tejo studied the data. It seemed impossible. A child's outburst could not have changed galactic diplomacy, but the evidence was clear. People are actually talking to each other now, Yuna said. Not just performing for each other. There is a difference. Tejo thought about his own frustrations with council meetings. The endless formality, the careful words that said nothing. The hours wasted on politeness instead of progress. Maybe there was something to this. Counselor Mora noticed the changes too. She watched as the careful walls of protocol began to crumble. She saw young diplomats speaking more freely. She heard old complaints finally being voiced, and she saw her daughter at the center of it all. Fen had become something of a celebrity among the station's youth. She held regular gatherings where she taught not just words, but the philosophy behind them. She had grown beyond simple cursing into something more complex. The words are just sounds, she explained to her students. What matters is the feeling. Humans made these sounds to express things that polite words cannot. Anger, frustration, truth. That hurts. A young Valari raised his paw. But why is truth bad? It is not bad, it is hard. Hard things need strong words. Mora listened from a distance. Her daughter had become a teacher. A strange teacher of strange lessons, but a teacher nonetheless. She went to speak with Teho. They met in his office, the same office where everything had started. Fen was not present this time. It was just the two diplomats, sitting across from each other. I should be angry with you, Mora said. I know. You ruined centuries of diplomatic protocol. By accident. Mora's whiskers twitched. My daughter has become the leader of a cultural movement. She teaches alien children to express themselves honestly. This is your legacy. Teho did not know what to say. An apology seemed inadequate. Pride seemed inappropriate. I have been watching the council meetings, Mora continued. They are different now. Better, perhaps. We actually solve problems instead of just discussing them. I have noticed that too. The Krix-Valari tension has decreased significantly. Do you know why? Teho shook his head. Because we finally said the things we had been hiding. We insulted each other openly. We expressed our real frustrations. And then, somehow, we moved past them. Mora's eyes met his. There is something powerful in honest anger. It clears the air. That is not what they teach at the Diplomatic Academy. Perhaps it should be. They sat in comfortable silence for a moment. The stars turned slowly outside the window. Fen wants to continue visiting you, Mora said finally. She considers you her teacher. I did not teach her anything useful. You taught her that emotions are valid. That hiding feelings does not make them disappear. Mora stood to leave. That is useful, Ambassador. More useful than you know. After she left, Teho sat alone with his thoughts. He had spent his entire career learning to hide his feelings, to speak carefully, to present a calm face regardless of what churned beneath. This was what diplomats did. This was how things worked, but maybe it was not the only way. Director Hanbi called again that evening. Her expression was unreadable. I have good news and strange news, she said. Start with the good news. Earth Command has decided not to pursue disciplinary action against you. The efficiency improvements in council meetings have been noted. Some people are calling it a breakthrough in interspecies communication. Teho exhaled with relief. And the strange news? They want you to write a paper about it. Informal communication strategies in multicultural diplomacy. They think there might be lessons to apply elsewhere. You want me to write about teaching an alien child to curse? We want you to write about honest communication and its effects on diplomatic outcomes. Hanbi's lips curved slightly. The cursing part will be a footnote. After the call ended, Teho pulled out a blank document. He stared at it for a long time. How did one explain what had happened? How did one justify the chaos he had caused? How did one argue that sometimes the wrong thing led to the right result? He started typing. The words came slowly at first, then faster. He wrote about Fen, about her innocent ears catching his worst moments, about her brilliant mind finding power in forbidden sounds, about her courage in speaking when everyone else stayed silent. He wrote about Vel, about the ancient Krix who found refreshment in rudeness, about the cracks in his formal exterior that revealed something almost like warmth. He wrote about the council, about meetings that actually produced results, about problems that finally got solved, about walls that crumbled when people stopped pretending. He wrote until the station's artificial night cycle dimmed the lights around him. When he finished, He had something that felt almost like truth. It was not proper diplomatic writing. It broke several style guidelines. It included personal observations that had no place in official documents. He sent it anyway. The response came within hours. Hanbi's message was brief. "This is not what we expected, but it might be what we need." "Good work." Taeho read the message several times. He was not sure what it meant, but it felt like permission. Permission to be different, to think differently, to maybe, just maybe, have done something right by accident. Outside his window, the galaxy continued its endless turning. Billions of beings on thousands of worlds, all trying to understand each other, all failing in their own ways, all trying again. Maybe that was the real lesson. Communication was not about perfect words. It was about trying, failing, trying again with more honesty. Fen had understood this instinctively. She had cut through complexity with simple force. Taeho smiled for the first time in months. His career was not over. It was just beginning a strange new chapter. And somewhere on the station, a small silver cub was preparing her next lesson. The galaxy would never be the same. 1 year had passed since the day Taeho stubbed his toe. The Galactic Station had transformed in ways no one could have predicted. The council chamber looked the same. The chairs still floated in the same circle. The holographic displays still flickered with translations. But the atmosphere was completely different. At the beginning of each meeting, there was now a 5-minute period called open expression time. During these 5 minutes, delegates could speak freely without formal protocols. They could say what they really thought. They could use whatever words felt right. It had been Councillor Vell's idea. The old Cricks had proposed it after watching months of improved outcomes from honest communication. The council had voted in favor, with only 2 abstentions. At first, the sessions were awkward. Diplomats who had spent their lives speaking carefully did not know how to be direct. They stumbled over their own honesty. They said too much or too little, but slowly, they learned. The Aquari representative began each session by stating any frustrations from the previous week. The Valari delegates practiced expressing disagreement without aggression. Even the formal prism beings learned to let their crystal structures vibrate with emotion. Meeting efficiency improved by 45%. Disputes that had festered for years finally reached resolution. The station's various species began to actually understand each other, not just tolerate each other, and at the center of this revolution, whether she wanted the attention or not, stood Fen. She was 8 years old now. Her silver fur had grown slightly longer. Her eyes held more wisdom than they had a year ago. She had become something between a mascot and a legend. The council decided to recognize her contribution officially. They scheduled an award ceremony in the main assembly hall. Every species would send representatives. It was the first time a child had ever received such an honor. Ambassador Taeho was asked to present the award. He stood at the podium, looking out at the assembled crowd. Hundreds of beings from dozens of worlds filled the hall. They had come to celebrate a cub who had accidentally changed everything. Taeho had written and rewritten his speech many times. He had deleted paragraphs. He had added sentences. He had struggled to find the right words. In the end, he decided to keep it simple. 1 year ago, he began, I made a mistake. I hurt my foot on a metal edge. I said some words I should not have said. A child heard me. Child heard me. The crowd was silent, listening. That child did not understand my words. She did not know their meaning or their weight. But she understood something more important. She understood that honest feelings deserve honest expression. He paused, gathering his thoughts. We build walls around ourselves. We speak in careful patterns. We hide what we really think behind polite phrases. We tell ourselves, this is civilization. This is diplomacy. This is how intelligent beings behave. He looked out at the faces before him. Alien faces. Strange faces. But somehow, in this moment, not so different from his own, Fen taught us that sometimes the walls need to come down. Sometimes we need to say the hard things. Sometimes the crude word is more true than the polished speech. He gestured toward the small figure waiting at the side of the stage. I did not mean to start a revolution. Fen did not mean to become a symbol. But here we are. And I think we are better for it. Fen walked onto the stage. Her fur had been brushed until it shone. She wore a small ceremonial sash in the colors of the Galactic Council. She looked nervous and proud at the same time. Teho knelt down to her level. He held the award, a crystal sphere that glowed with soft light. Fen of the Velari, he said formally. The Galactic Council recognizes your contribution to interspecies understanding. This award is for showing us that honest communication matters more than polite silence. Fen took the sphere carefully. It was almost too big for her small paws. Thank you, she said. Her voice carried through the hall's speakers. But I have to be honest. The crowd leaned forward. I did not know what I was doing. I just wanted the mean bug alien to stop saying bad things about my mother. In the audience, Counselor Vel made his clicking laugh. Several other delegates joined with their own versions of amusement. But then something strange happened, Fen continued. People started listening differently. They started talking differently. They stopped hiding. She looked down at the glowing sphere in her paws. My mother told me that words are tools. Some tools are rough, some tools are smooth, but all tools have a purpose. She looked up at the crowd. Sometimes we need rough tools to break through hard things. The applause started slowly, then built into a wave. Beings of all species expressed approval in their own ways. Clicks, whistles, bubbles, chimes. The sound filled the hall like music. After the ceremony, there was a reception. Delegates mingled in small groups. Food and drinks from a dozen worlds covered the tables. The atmosphere was warm and friendly. Teho found himself standing with Lieutenant Yuna, watching the crowd. You did a good thing, she said. I stubbed my toe. You started something important. By accident. Maybe. But you did not run away from the consequences. You let it grow. Teho thought about that. He could have buried the incident. He could have forbidden Fen from visiting. He could have suppressed the changes instead of documenting them. He had chosen differently. Maybe accidents are how change really happens, he said. We plan and prepare. But the real shifts come from things we never expected. Yuna nodded. Your paper has been added to the Diplomatic Academy curriculum. They call it the Teho Principle. Honest emotion as a communication strategy. That sounds too formal. They wanted to call it the swearing protocol. I talked them out of it. Teho laughed. It felt good to laugh. Across the room, Fen was surrounded by admirers. Young aliens from various species gathered around her, listening to her stories. She had become their unofficial leader, their teacher, their friend. Counselor Mora stood nearby, watching her daughter with mixed emotions. Pride, worry, hope, the complicated feelings of every parent watching their child become something unexpected. Counselor Vel approached Teho. The old Crix moved more slowly now than he had a year ago. But his compound eyes still sparkled with sharp intelligence. Ambassador, Vel clicked. I must thank you again. For what, exactly? For reminding us that we are still alive. Vel made a gesture that might have been a shrug. We become so careful as we age. So controlled. We forget what passion feels like. You seem plenty passionate about proper resource allocation. Vel clicked his laugh. Passion about procedures is not the same. The cub reminded me of when I was young. When I said what I meant. When words had fire. He looked toward Fen. Guard that fire, Ambassador. In her and in yourself. The galaxy needs more heat and less cold politeness. He walked away, leaving Teho thoughtful. The reception continued late into the station's night cycle. Eventually, the crowd thinned. Diplomats returned to their quarters. Aides cleaned up the remaining refreshments. Teho walked back to his office alone. The corridors were quiet. The stars turned slowly outside the windows. He sat at his desk, the same desk where everything had started, the same console he had kicked with his toe. He thought about everything that had happened. The chaos. The fear. The unexpected outcomes. The strange path, from accident to achievement. He thought about Fen. About her innocent ears and brilliant mind. about the way she had turned his worst moment into something meaningful. He thought about the future, about what other changes might come, about what other walls might fall. Tomorrow, there would be more meetings, more documents, more coffee. The routine would continue, but something fundamental had shifted. The galaxy was learning to speak more honestly, to express real feelings, to break through formal barriers, all because of a stubbed toe and a curious cub. Tejo smiled and looked out at the stars. The universe was vast and strange and full of surprises, and that, he realized, was exactly how it should be. Somewhere in the Valari quarter, Fen was falling asleep with her crystal award beside her pillow. She dreamed of words and worlds, and all the things she might still learn. Her mother watched from the doorway, feeling hope for the future. And across the station, in quarters of every design, beings of every species settled into rest with something new in their hearts. The knowledge that honesty mattered, that feelings were valid, that sometimes the rough words carried the most truth. It was a small revolution. But all revolutions start small. The galaxy was changing, one word at a time.